Well, let's kick things off right away. So we are going to hop into another conversation between Grace Carter from Aritzia and Amy Ray from Vanedge Capital.
Okay.
Hello.
Whoa. So yeah, thanks. Welcome back from the break. I guess a quick introduction from both of us. You may be wondering why someone from Aritzia is speaking to a venture capitalist. I have a bit of a background pre-Aritzia in small business technology startups. You can go to my LinkedIn and see all the gory details and how ADD I am. But yeah, today we're here to speak with Amy, and I will let you introduce yourself.
We'll go this way. All right. Hi, my name is Amy Ray. I have not always worked on the evil side of the business. I guess I started my career off in Toronto. I did a couple different businesses, but I ended up in venture capital over there. I ended up going over to one of our portfolio companies and ended up getting bought by a West Coast company. So came out here, did a couple startups, and then ended up back at on the venture capital side. So I've been here 4 years, and the Vancouver's been amazing, but sitting here I'm wondering why I only know probably 5% of you. And it makes me realize that I want to know all of you, and I should be knowing who you all are. I mean, if you are the women of Vancouver that are doing wonderful things, let's go for that walking meeting that we were just talking about.
Or check out the great grilled cheese giveaway. Just saying.
Exactly.
So a quick show of hands here, just to get a sense of who you guys all are. How many people here are currently, or have been, or intend to be involved with a startup business of some kind? Quite a few.
That's awesome.
Cool. And second show of hands, if you've either already sought capital for your business or you think you will do so in the next few years. Yeah, some of you as well. Okay, cool. So I guess you already kind of touched on, Amy, how you came to be in this line of work, but I think it's sort of unusual to see someone so young, and to be honest, a female, being in the venture capital world. Do you want to delve into that a little bit deeper and tell us how you came to be where you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to grab some water as well. To be honest, I answer this question quite often. I get asked it quite a bit, and a lot of it comes down to really tactics, which I think you can go back to in everything you're doing with your startups. I came out of university and I worked a couple jobs and thought, God, is this what I'm going to do the rest of my life? I'm going to wake up 9 to 5. Like, I hate this. Waiting for the elevator bank to open up and there's 20 people in it and you have to wait for the next elevator bank of super unhappy people to go down. And I just thought, like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. So I'd work a job and be like, okay, I know I don't want to do that. And then I'd work another job and I'd be like, okay, I know I don't want to do that. So this is going to be a really long process. And I decided, you know, in university we started talking about private equity and it sounded really interesting, and how would I get into it? So first things first, I thought, okay, I need to get analyst in the name of my job somehow. And so actually, as a funny side part, I remember coming back from traveling and my dad said to me, you know, kid, like, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do next? And I said, well, I don't know, I really like this private equity thing. I need to get some modeling experience. I think my dad fell off his chair.
By the way, Amy's dad is here right now, as is her mom. They're right up here. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, and I looked over at my dad and I was like, financial modeling. Thanks. So from there, I ended up getting a job for this company. I wasn't super keen about the job. I just came back from traveling. 9/11 just happened. I had no money in my pocket. I just needed a job. So they hired me for this job, and before I left the interview, I said, like, one more thing, like, can I change the job title? And the guy hiring me was like, what do you want your job title to be? And I was like, well, I was thinking business analyst. And he was like, I don't care, you're just gonna do the job, so sure, you can be business analyst. So I was like, score. And then from there, you know, it came from a little bit of luck. Something opened up in a merchant bank, which is very similar to venture capital. I got a little bit of experience under my belt. And then really the tactical part came. I worked for them for 3 years, and I decided I really want to go into VC. I have my foot in the door. And I would go to work on Sunday night, and I'd get a list of every VC in Canada. And I'd look at every managing partner, and I would call them up with a script saying, like, my name is Amy Ray, I'm really interested in working for your company, knowing that they're not answering the phone because it's Sunday night. So I didn't have to be nervous. I could leave their message, and then I'd send them an email saying, like, hi, it's Amy. I just left you a voicemail. Here's my resume attached. And then this is the best part. The managing director gets my voicemail, and he gets my email. And he's not going to call me back, or she. It was he, always. But he would give it to somebody else to call me. And they would have to call me because their boss just gave them a phone number and a name to call. So, and I love the HR panel, by the way. I loved it, but I went around you guys, and I went to the top person. You know, sure enough, I got some interviews. And when I went into those interviews, something that I didn't even think about, I knew every managing director across Canada. I could talk about every other VC firm because I just called them all and emailed them all. So now all of a sudden it sounds like I really know what I'm talking about, when really I had no idea. So that's actually how I got into venture capital. So I've had probably about 6.5 years experience in venture capital. One of the companies in Toronto, I went over to one of our portfolio companies. Portfolio company is a company that we invest in. And I worked there. It ended up getting sold to a company out on the West Coast, and I was dying to live in Vancouver. So I moved out here. That company ended up getting sold, and then I went to a restart company, and then I ended up back into venture capital.
So the strategic way in which you got your job, which I love, is a good segue to the next question. I'm sure a lot of people here are curious to know, what do you look for in a company when you're contemplating funding it?
Yeah, so just a bit of background on structure of venture capital. When you start off a venture capital company, you set up what is usually called a fund. And so your fund has a mandate. And the managing director is a really important person because they need to raise that money. So Paul Lee is my managing director. He raised a fund of $137 million, which is a very big number in Canada for a first fund. It's not such a big number in the US for a first fund. So hats off to him for doing that. And he has to sell his vision of what he wants to invest in, and that's called our mandate. So we're a Series A investor, which is different from a seed investor, and I have this conversation quite a bit. So we look to invest $2 to $5 million into a company. We look to have ownership of somewhere around 20%, 15 to 20% of that company. We have 3 focuses right now. So we have gaming. Paul is an ex-EA guy, so we have a lot of gaming stuff in our funds. So we have gaming, infrastructure, and then digital media. So digital media is my focus. I look for a great management team because you have to work with a great management team. Everything you do in your investment comes down to that relationship with that person you're working with. And I'll say full-fledged, if you don't have a great connection with the person you're raising money with, they probably will not give you money. It is that important. You have to have that relationship. You have to have that trust. You have to know that person is telling you the truth when you're asking hard questions. Second would be a product. We're Series A, we're not seed, so you have to have a product, you have to have customers, you have to have paying customers, and we usually look for somewhere around $1 million in revenue. Now, that seems like a lot to be $1 million in revenue, but it's not the revenue number that I care about. What I really care about is that repeatable sales motion to get that deal in the door. I'm Series A, we talked about scaling, I want to give you money to grow your company. So that's what I really care about, is having that repeatable sales motion. What's your story? What do you say? How do you get them interested in your product and then paying for your product?
So Amy and I had a beer last night, and we talked about some of this stuff already, but something she said I thought was really interesting. So I'm going to take us off the tracks a little here. I'm going to ask you, what advice do you have for people who are looking to build relationships with venture capitalists? You're probably pretty...
You didn't ask this question
Sorry,
last night.
it's new.
I'm just kidding. To be honest, like, my job is to know what's going on in the community. We invest in North America, but I sit in Vancouver, and that's why when I first started talking, you know, I actually feel a bit of shame right now that I'm looking out in this audience and I really only know probably 5% of you. So I'm not even joking, like, call me up and let's go for a coffee. Like, I should know all of you. There's no reason. I'm a Series A. I might not be a perfect fit for all of you today, but I might be a perfect fit for you in the years to come. And I should know all of you, honestly.
I know we've touched on this a number of times. This is kind of selfish. I'm really curious. How many people here have actually already read Lean In? You guys should all read this book. It's amazing. It really is. I'm a proselytizer, but it's important that you do. Anyway, I just finished it. I just came back from Maui. I'm not normally this tanned. And I was wondering, after I finished reading it, I was thinking about Amy, and I know a little bit about VC. It is still a very male-dominated world. That's changing, but at this point it is. How is it for you being a woman in a very male-dominated world?
Yeah, I haven't finished reading the book yet. My sister just gave it to me. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I think I've just had amazing managing directors and CEOs. I've never really noticed any boundaries about being female. I guess I don't think about it. I know I bring a lot to the table, and I know I'm a really hard worker. When somebody offers me a job, the first thing I do when I shake their hand is like, you will not regret this. I am a hard worker, and I really am. So it really has never come up, and I was watching Sheryl Sandberg's TED Talk, and one thing that hit me, and I was like, oh, maybe this has affected me, and I just haven't thought about it enough. And she talks about leaning in and taking a seat at the boardroom table. And this is interesting because I had kind of a different ending to this story as of 2 days ago, and I thought the first board meeting I went to, I was an observer in the board meeting. So there was a big table, and it was all men around the table, and so I sat back away from the table, and Paul was like, get up here, and I was like, no, I'm good. And he was like, get up here, and I was like, there's not gonna be enough chairs, and he like went over and grabbed a chair and pushed over and was like, come and sit beside me. I was like, all right.
And this, to be clear, this isn't because you're a woman, this is because you're an observer.
I'm an observer of the board, so as an observer, you're not supposed to talk, but the reality is I knew a lot about the company, and so he wanted me beside him to talk if it was necessary. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I thought, oh, like, did I sit back there because I was an observer, or did I sit back there because I was a woman? I was like, I don't know the answer to that. Like, maybe she's right. Maybe I never should have sat back there for women. Like, maybe I should have just sat at that table right away. And then I went for coffee the other day with Tony, and Tony's a colleague of mine. He's also a principal at Vanedge. And he was like, hey, what's Paul's definition of an observer? And I was like, oh, he doesn't really conform to it. He thinks if you have something to add to the conversation, to just add to it. He's like, yeah, I tried to sit away from the table, and like, he was so mad at me. And he just kept being like, Tony, like, you know more about this than anybody else. Like, get up here. And I thought, it's not a woman thing. It was just a new position that both of us had never been an observer before. And you go through all this legal paperwork that talks about what is an observer? Like, an observer can sit in the meeting but cannot participate. And lean in. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the book.
Are we okay for time? Yeah, sure. Do we want to do our question, or do you guys want to ask a question? Does anyone have a question for Amy? I have more, but if we only have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So question for those of you in the back, what are the first steps you should take if you're looking for funding, and what types of documents or information should you have at the ready if you're going down that path?
I would look on the website and just see what their mandate is to make sure there's a fit. But again, whether there's a fit or not, if you want to get out there and know who's in your community, I have people come to me and you're not a fit for me, but you should go talk to X, or you should go talk to Y, or you're doing a great job. Maybe you shouldn't get funding. Maybe you should keep owning 100% of your company and running with it. There's a very big difference in what's a good venture capital investment and what's still a crazy awesome business, and they don't always cross over. And then second, I would say, go and have a coffee. Like, ask them to have a coffee for your first meeting. It's very relaxed, and then if it is a fit, you can get all your documents together, and then you can come in and actually have a formal pitch. It can be a coffee or just come in and sit down. It's our job to know what's out there. Like, if you call us up and ask us for a coffee, like, if somebody says no to that, they're not doing their job. Like, we have to go out and meet the community and know what's going on. So yeah, just pick up the call, send an email, and we'll make time and say, yeah, let's sit down for 15 minutes. We do it all the time.
You heard it here first. She can't say no.
It's true.
Cool. Any other questions from you guys? Now's your chance. Rebecca.
I don't know if you want to repeat that.
I'm gonna bungle this question. So how do you determine fit with the people involved in a company that's in your area, particularly if the CEO may be sketchy? No.
It was something like that.
Rebecca's gonna tell you what she said. Maybe it was too complicated.
No, I think I have it. I can take it from there. What happens if and you can tell me if I'm wrong. What happens if somebody comes in with a great idea, but the CEO maybe isn't a great fit for us, or you don't see that potential, or you see a CEO that comes in that's great, but they're in a really cluttered space, so maybe it's a space we're not interested in. I think there's a couple answers to that question. One, and I go back to team again. We've had people come in with some pretty good ideas and great traction, and you just like didn't feel a very good connection. And it seems weird. It's venture capital. It's financing. Like, a deal's a deal. You should want to go for that. It really is about the team. If you don't feel like there's a connection there, and you can trust them, and you believe in what they're selling, and you believe that other customers aren't going to come on because of what they're selling, you won't get the deal done. Like, it won't. Like, people will matter that much. And then on the flip side, if somebody comes in with a who seems amazing and doesn't have the great idea, for me, it's not my fund. So realistically, I could stay in touch with them and be like, I'm not interested in this, but I think you're awesome, and I would like to keep that personal relationship, and my job is to find deals. So if they are a great person, I do want to stay in touch with them. The same thing goes for people who are not raising money. I stalk them a little bit, and I make sure that in my calendar I call them every 3 months and see where they are and see if they need money yet, because I believe in them and I believe in their product so much, and I realize they're going to have to scale at some time, and money is going to make that easier. But then on the flip side, there are, if it was Paul, it's his fund. If he really believes in somebody, he might actually fund them if he believes in the entrepreneur. That's a little bit more risky. It would probably have to be his call, not mine. Same with angels. Like, angels will back somebody to back them and have a relationship with them for their life, knowing that maybe this one will fail, but I want to be on your next one. So I think that answered it.
Ladies, a round of applause for Miss Amy Ray.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Just on that, you can find the website's vanedgecapital.com. It's a terrible website.
Many of us here are guilty of that sort of thing.
But Amy at vanedgecapital.com is my email address, AMY. And so you can find my phone number online or send me an email, but I really do mean that. I should know everybody in this room. So whether you have something or don't have something, let's go for a coffee.
Amy, I just want to thank you again actually for coming out today and being so open with that, because I was just at an internet conference in Vegas with Goldman Sachs, and just after that another conference in New York, and there were no women VCs, like not a one, and in rooms of 500 there were maybe 20 women total. And it's just so refreshing to have you here with us today and just be so open doors, because people in this room will be people who will at some point be looking for funding, and they want to know you. So thank you again for coming out and